Okay, real talk. Have you ever caught yourself muttering under your breath while trying to find your keys? Or narrating what you're cooking like you're hosting your own cooking show that nobody asked for? Maybe you've replayed an argument in the shower, a full blown debate complete with your own devastating comeback that you definitely didn't think of in the moment. If any of that sounds familiar, you've probably done what most people do immediately after: looked around to make sure nobody heard you, felt slightly embarrassed, and wondered, am I a little bit weird? Here's what's wild. You're not weird. You're actually doing something your brain was literally built to do. And the people who judge you for it, science suggests they might be missing out. Today, we're going deep into the psychology of people who talk to themselves, why it happens, what it reveals about your intelligence and emotional life, and why this quirky little habit might be one of the most underrated mental tools you have. Let's start at the beginning. When you were a child, you talked out loud constantly, not just to other people, to your toys, to the air, to yourself. Developmental psychologists have a name for this: private speech. The legendary psychologist Lev Vygotsky studied this in children and found that it wasn't random noise. Kids narrate their actions out loud because it helps them think. Now I put the block here, now it goes on top. They're essentially using language as a scaffold for thought, building their understanding of the world by voicing it. And then, somewhere around age 7 or 8, most kids go quiet. They internalize that voice. It becomes what psychologists call inner speech, the endless silent monologue running in your head right now. But some people never fully stop talking out loud, and the ones who do, they often bring that external voice back when things get hard, get confusing, or get real, which tells us something profound. Self-talk isn't a regression, it's a resource. Think about the last time you were really stressed, maybe assembling furniture at midnight, or trying to parallel park with 3 people watching, or walking into a job interview with your heart in your throat. Chances are, a little voice leaked out. Okay, you've got this. Just breathe. That wasn't weakness. That was your brain calling in backup. Researchers at the University of Michigan, led by psychologist Ethan Kross, have done fascinating work on this. Cross and his team found that when people talk to themselves, especially in the third person using their own name, they dramatically reduce emotional reactivity and anxiety. So instead of spiraling with, "I can't do this, I'm going to fail," your brain responds differently to, "Okay, Sarah, what's the next step?" It's subtle, but the distance that third-person language creates acts almost like a psychological buffer. You become both the person in the storm and the calm friend watching from the shore. 2 perspectives, 1 brain. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Like something out of a self-help pamphlet, but the neuroscience backs it up. When you use self-directed speech, particularly that distance third-person version, brain imaging studies show decreased activity in the regions associated with rumination and emotional flooding. You're literally rewiring your stress response in real time using nothing but words. Now, there's another dimension to self-talk that doesn't get nearly enough attention, and it has to do with focus and performance. Here's a scenario. Imagine a professional tennis player about to serve at match point. The stadium is silent, thousands of eyes. In that moment, many elite athletes are doing something their coaches have specifically trained them to do. They're talking to themselves. See the ball. Trust your arm. 1 point at a time. Not because they're nervous, but because self-talk is a performance tool. A landmark study published in the journal Perspectives on Psychological Science found that instructional self-talk, the kind where you walk yourself through steps, significantly improves performance on tasks that require skill and precision. It keeps your attention tethered to the present moment, which is exactly where performance lives. Your brain is easily hijacked by fear of the future or regret about the past. Self-talk is a leash that pulls it back. And this isn't just for athletes. Writers do it. Surgeons do it. Programmers muttering, "Wait, why isn't this working?" to an empty room are engaged in the same process. They're using language to slow down their thinking, to organize a complex mental landscape, to catch what silent thought might race past.
But let's talk about something a little more intimate, because self-talk isn't always functional. Sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's painful. There's a type of self-talk that most people are very familiar with, and it sounds something like this. Why did you say that? That was so stupid. What is wrong with you? The inner critic, a relentless, cruel voice that shows up after you make a mistake, say the wrong thing, or fall short of your own expectations. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people are far harsher to themselves than they would ever be to a friend in the same situation. Psychologist Kristin Neff, one of the world's leading researchers on self-compassion, has spent decades studying this gap. She found that people who practice self-compassionate self-talk, speaking to themselves with the same warmth they'd offer a close friend, show lower levels of anxiety and depression, greater emotional resilience, and paradoxically, higher motivation to improve. The inner critic, for all its bravado, actually makes you less likely to try again. Self-compassion makes you more likely to. That's counterintuitive, but the research is clear. So what you say to yourself and how you say it is not a small thing. It is, in many ways, the foundation of your entire psychological experience. There's something almost philosophical happening here when you sit with it long enough. The fact that human beings can have a conversation with themselves, that we contain somehow both the speaker and the listener, is genuinely remarkable. Ancient philosophers grappled with this. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private self-reflections, his meditations, not for publication, but essentially as a form of structured self-talk. He was a Roman emperor, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, and he spent his private hours narrating instructions to himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He was talking to himself, and we've been reading it for 2,000 years. The Stoics understood something modern psychology has only recently begun to quantify. The quality of your inner dialogue shapes the quality of your life. Not in some mystical, abstract way, in a measurable, cognitive, neurological way. The story you tell yourself about who you are, what you're capable of, whether this situation is survivable, that story, rehearsed and revised in the quiet of your own mind, becomes the architecture of your reality. So what does all of this mean for you, the person who talks to themselves in the grocery store, or argues with traffic from the driver's seat, or whispers encouragement to a plant they're desperately trying not to kill? It means you're using your mind the way your mind was designed to be used. It means you're processing, you're regulating, you're thinking out loud in the most literal, beautiful sense of the phrase. And it means that the voice in your head, the one you've probably been a little embarrassed by, deserves to be taken seriously, directed, shaped, maybe softened in some places, but never silenced. The next time you catch yourself talking to yourself, I want you to pause for just a second and ask, what am I actually doing right now? Am I calming myself down? Am I working through a problem? Am I rehearsing something I'm afraid of? Because once you understand what that voice is for, you can start using it with intention. You can talk yourself through fear. You can coach yourself through failure. You can remind yourself out loud in your own voice that you know more than you think you do. Your inner monologue is not a flaw in the software. It is the software. And honestly, talk to yourself more. Kindly, curiously, honestly. It might just be the most important conversation you ever have. If something in this video made you think about how you talk to yourself, I'd genuinely love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. And if you've never thought about this before, well, now you can't stop thinking about it. You're welcome. See you in the next one.